much for, oh, it moves. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak this evening in West Palm Beach. Thank you all for coming, and to the Rabbi and Rebbitzin for hosting me. I'm going to start with what just happened. I was supposed to land at 4:30. I was supposed to be here at 6, and God had other plans, right? It's close to 8 o'clock. But I'm here. Okay? Why am I saying this? Because I'm going to connect it to what I probably missed Malchiel talking about Gaza. And I don't know if he also mentioned Yehuda and Shomron. But the Nachala organization is a fabulous, very, very important organization. Daniela Weiss, one of the heads, is one of the... She's going to go down in the history books as one of the most important Jewish women of our time in terms of the resettlement of the land of Israel, pushing forward without fear of the consequences, without fear of the politics, without fear of what anyone thinks. I'll just say about myself. My wife and I, we have 4 boys. 3 of them just got married the past 2 years during the war. 2 of them were fighters in the war. One was just called back up for his 3rd stint of reserve duty in the war in Gaza now. I just finished my 5th stint of reserve duty in the war last week. But I made sure that me and all 4 of my boys, the 3 who just got married and the one who is only 16, so we hope he doesn't get married yet, are all on the list of Nachala for homes for the rebuilt communities in Gaza. Please, God. Because we are Jews, and we're supposed to talk the way Jews are supposed to talk, which is, of course we're going to rebuild the Jewish communities in the Jewish Gaza. It's not a question of if, it's only a question of when. And just like God, for whatever reason, made it that I came 2 hours late because the flight was delayed and stuck on the tarmac and everything, all right, we want sovereignty and we want rebuilding all over Judea and Samaria today and in Gaza today. God has other plans. But God is looking for us to do our part. He wants to see that the Jewish people want it. Because I don't know about you, every Friday night at the Shabbat table, I sing a song with my kids. That song is Yeribon. I don't know how many of you sing it at your Shabbat table every Shabbat. Does anyone know who wrote the song Yeribon? His name was Rabbi Yisrael Najara. He was the chief rabbi of Gaza City in the 17th century. So don't let anyone tell you, your children or your grandchildren, that the Jews have no connection to Gaza, that it belongs to the Arabs. Jews were living in Gaza way before the first Arab stepped into the land of Israel. Our history in Gaza goes back to the Bible. But believe it or not, before the Jews resettled Gaza, after we liberated Gaza in the 6-Day War in 1967, one of the major influxes of the Jewish community into Gaza were the Spanish, Portuguese Jews who were expelled from Spain in 1492. And that's just one of the stories of the Jewish resettlement and living and the Jewish history in Gaza. There is no thing called the Gaza Strip separated from Israel. It is an integral part of the Jewish homeland that we are supposed to live in. So right now we're not there. Right now there's a yellow line because of politics, because of a 20-point peace plan. And again, I was in Washington talking about this. So I can get to that in a second. But I also know, as my son is in Gaza right now, Hamas are trying to kill us every day. Every day they're coming out of tunnels, or coming wherever they're coming, trying to kill us. There is no ceasefire. There is no 20-point peace plan. It's all a bunch of hot air for politics. Trump wants to believe it's going to happen. He might. And you want to look, I believe he has the best intentions. I really do. Kushner and Witkoff were working on this plan. I believe they are giving bad advice. I believe they have a misunderstanding, even though they're Jewish, they have a misunderstanding about what the truth is about the land of Israel. what the true identity is of the Jewish people and what our purpose is in the land of Israel. And they have other concerns. But it's not going anywhere. Meaning this peace plan is not going anywhere. It's not going to happen. There is no peace with a religious ideology that's 1,400 years old, whose agenda is to take over the world in the name of Allah. There's no peace. All there is you or us. And here I'm going to talk as a Jew living in our ancestral homeland Israel, and as an American. Because it's no longer just in the Middle East. It's now here. And plenty of my conversations with congressmen and senators was about the problem here. Because you want to know what I told them? I said, you want to know something? We're going to be okay in Israel. How do I know? Because God's watching over us. We're going to have challenges. We're going to have tragedies. But one, we've gone through 2,000 plus years of continuous exile and persecution, and we're still around. Not because we're any better than anyone else. Not because we're geniuses and we have Jewish brains. Only because of Hashem love. So we're going to get through the challenges today too. But I'm worried about America. Because in Israel, we know the enemy. We know we're up against the 1,400-year-old Islamic jihadi religious ideology that is about taking over the world. How many Americans know that? How many Europeans know that? Even today, with what we see going on in Paris and London and Brussels, even with what's going on today, many Europeans are still ignoring reality and still in the frame of mind, no, if we just make life better for them, then everything will be okay. We just give them more free housing. But let them have their no-go zones. Let them be the mayors of all these major cities. Let them make the rules that are taking away freedom of speech in London and England. Freedom of speech is gone. Gone. You get arrested if you write a WhatsApp message that they don't like. A WhatsApp message people are getting arrested on in England today. And if Americans don't wake up, and this is some congressman said this to me, they know what's going on in Europe today is going to be America in 5 years. So, coming back to Israel, in Israel, we know the game. We know we're protected by God, and we know the enemy we're up against. So, things might not be happening at the time that we want it to happen. We might not be building as many communities in Judea and Samaria as we might want to do. We might not be rebuilding our destroyed communities in Gaza like we want to do right now. But it's happening. It's happening. And it's going to happen as long as we strengthen our belief and our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to God, and we act. We don't just sit back and pray. We act. And the Jewish people in Israel today are acting. Organizations like Nachalah are acting. Me and my friends who are still serving in the army are acting. Our children, our grandchildren who are serving in the army, we are acting. And we are such an unbelievable generation of King David-like warriors that hasn't existed in the Jewish people since biblical times. And we are living it. It's in the air in Israel. And it's insane. Like, we're a country 2 years at war. The world has already gone on, but we're still at war. My son is in Gaza. Right? They're still trying to kill us. It's not over yet. We're going to probably have a huge thing with Iran any day now. Probably going to be a few weeks, but any day it could be, right? We still haven't taken care of Hezbollah in Lebanon. Syria is horrendous, and I didn't even have to say how horrendous the American diplomacy has been in Lebanon and Syria. I had congressmen telling me that. So the story's not over in terms of our literal fighting to protect not just ourselves, to protect the Christians, to protect the Jews, to protect the Kurds, to protect the Alawites. The only power in the world today that cares about those lives, they're not Jewish, they're the Jewish people. Just us, the Jewish state of Israel. No one else cares. American administration doesn't care. And believe me, I thank God every day President Trump is president, and he's the best president we've ever had, and the best president we're ever going to have. But even this administration is off the mark and doesn't get it. And anyone who still puts their faith in a human being, instead of putting his or her faith in the only place that it should be, in Hashem and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in God, they're off. God is waiting for us to act. God is waiting for us to strengthen our faith, to strengthen the Jewish identity of our children, not by teaching them about bagels and lox, but by teaching them about Judea and Samaria and Hebron and the mitzvot, and how the mitzvot are connected to the land of Israel, and how their identity as children, no matter where they live in the land, anywhere in the world, is connected to the land of Israel. It's an inherent aspect of their identity as Jews. And too many of our own educational institutions here in America are not doing the job properly, because when our kids, and I know this, go off to college, even if they go all their lives to the camps and to the schools, even Orthodox, and they end up on these college campuses, even in today's environment, some of them do not come out of those college campuses with a strong connection to God, their Jewish identity, to Israel anymore, even with all the years they were in schools, all the years in summer camps. And if you ask me, it's because unfortunately the Jewish world, Jewish communal world, Jewish organizational world has been neutered, unfortunately, by political correctness that makes too many Jews be embarrassed to talk about Judea and Samaria. Why should we be embarrassed to talk about Hebron? The city where our forefathers and foremothers are buried. The oldest Jewish capital. Jews were in Hebron before they were British, before they were Americans, before they were French in Paris. King David made Hebron the capital. And yet, our own schools teach it as if it's only a history and has no connection to the Jewish people. Oh, it's politics, we can't go there. No, it's a two-state solution. And if I say something, then these parents will complain, these donors will pull out. Hebron. Of course every trip to Israel should go to Hebron. Every federation trip, every school trip, every congregational trip. But no, birthright trips, forget about it. No Hebron. Shiloh? Shiloh! You can go there and literally see the place where the first Mishkan, tabernacle was. Do the Jewish world send groups to visit Shiloh if they're not right-wing? Forget about it. So how do we expect our children to go to the college campuses to stand up proudly? Forget about standing up for Israel. I've asked all the time by university students and high school students, what can we do on campus to help Israel? And I say, you want to know something? I'm sorry to disappoint you. Nothing. Nothing you do on your college campus will help Israel. You know why you should stand up for Israel on your college campus? To save your own Jewish soul and to save the Jewish souls of your own fellow students. Because if you are not able to stand up for Israel on college campus, you're going to feel embarrassed about your Jewish identity. And maybe you'll be okay, but your other fellow students who don't have as much information won't. And yes, it all goes back to the fact that too many Jewish institutions have made Israel a political issue instead of Israel being an identity issue. And that's the Jewish world and even the Orthodox world. It's not just a non-Orthodox issue. And this has been happening over decades. With that introduction, now I'll introduce myself. For those not familiar, my name is Avi Abelo. Originally from New York City. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had me born in New York City. Thank God my parents brought me to Israel when I was 16 years old, together with my siblings. I ended up making Aliyah not once but twice, because after I was spending a few years learning in yeshiva and serving in the army, I then met my wife, and she was in the middle of graduate school in New York. I never wanted to come back to America. I wanted to stay in Israel the rest of my life. But marriage is about compromises, right? Relationships about compromise. First compromise we made, she wanted to be near her family when we first get married, not getting married and moving together. So we spent 5 years living in New York. We lived in Riverdale for 5 years. I did my studies, and then she finished her studies, and we returned back to Israel, March 2002. I was actually working in Midtown when 9/11 happened, in Midtown Manhattan, but we were already planning on returning to Israel, no connection. I used to be a management consultant for a big global consulting firm called Accenture, worked for them in Manhattan, in New Jersey, opened up their Tel Aviv office. When I returned to Israel in 2002, the economy was horrible, and God had it that my consulting firm found a new client to open up a new office. The economy was horrible. It was the second Intifada. And then I was brought on board to open up that office. 2005 came around. 2005 was the expulsion, what I call the expulsion of the Jews from the Gaza Strip, the destruction of 21 Jewish communities in Gaza. When I was living in Israel in the early 1990s, I was out in the streets protesting against the Oslo peace process. Me, my family, we knew it would be a disaster. We knew it wouldn't bring any peace, it would bring more terror and death and destruction. So when the Gaza disengagement plan came down in 2005, I was out in the streets protesting against that, knowing that it was a horrendous disaster. So I literally left my job, asked for leave without pay for my job in Tel Aviv. My wife was 6 months pregnant with our third at the time. I basically gave her a kiss and a kiss to my kids. And then I disappeared for a whole month trying to sneak into the Gaza Strip. I don't know how many of you remember. The Gaza Strip was hermetically sealed by the Israeli government, by the army, by the police. It was literally underground railroad type infrastructure for Jews to try to sneak into the Gaza Strip to help the families there. I succeeded in getting in the Gaza Strip after like a month of trying. And then when they found out I'm an English speaker, so there was one other English speaker who was leading the PR campaign for the Gush Katif, the Gaza communities there. Her name was Anita Tucker. And I reached out to her. She said, Avi, I need help. I'm bombarded with media. Can you help me? Just be my assistant. Make a long story short, I helped her with the media. Media always asked, what are you trying to do? Like, the government made a decision. They're sending the army to take you all out of your homes. What are you trying to accomplish by staying here? I said, first of all, we believe in God. And we believe we have to do what we have to do to fight against things that are wrong. If it ends up happening, it ends up happening. But if we believe it's wrong, we have to fight against it. We have to not fight, we have to struggle against it. That's one. Number two, the world is dynamic. The Middle East is definitely dynamic. Who knows that with each day that we push them off from taking us out of their home, something can happen. I don't know, war can break out in the Middle East. I don't know, the American administration decides something else, all of a sudden the Israeli government drops it. Who knows? We don't know what we have to do. We can't just go because a decision was made. If we know it's wrong, we know it's a danger, and we all knew October 7th was coming. Anyone who ignored that had their head in the sand. And it's so sad. We were telling everyone, this is going to be a disaster. It's going to bring missiles on all of Israel. It's going to be terror attacks on all Israelis. Didn't want to listen. Whole Jewish world pushed it anyway. When they were removed from their homes, and I returned back to my home, it hurt me. It literally hurt me. Not just about what happened, because I said it wasn't dangerous just for Israel. These 10,000 Jews were paying the price of their own lives and livelihoods for a political decision. Israel was going to be more dangerous. And what was the third thing I was telling everyone in the media? The second the world sees the Jewish state of Israel destroying Jewish communities and expelling Jews from their homes, anti-Semitism around the world is going to spike. Okay? Because that's my understanding of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism it's always there. It always was, it always will be. And I've been saying for years, we were blessed to live in a generation, what I call the post-Holocaust bubble. Because it was a bubble. The Western world convinced itself, scared itself of how horrible they became or allowed themselves to become because of the Jew hatred that's inherent. And they saw what the Nazis did, and all of a sudden anti-Semitism became taboo. But before anti-Semitism became taboo, it was always there. And what's happening today, the growth of Jew hatred in the West, in America, it's not an anomaly. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. What I like to explain to people, I say, go back to Nazi Germany. The Nazis were in Germany, right? Does anyone here know, like, the percentage of the Jewish population of ultra-Orthodox Jews in Germany before the Holocaust? It was minuscule. The majority of the Jewish population were secular, assimilated Jews who succeeded in business. They succeeded in law. They succeeded in the justice system. They succeeded to assimilate as Germans. So much so that even Orthodox Jews said Berlin is the new Jerusalem. And guess what? Jew hatred spiked and it brought the Holocaust. Let's go back to the Spanish Inquisition. One of the major commentators on the Torah, his name is Abarbanel. He was the chief economic advisor to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. The Jews made it. We weren't hated because we were outliers, because we were different. We were hated because we successfully assimilated into society. Now look at what's happening today in America. Are they hating us because we're different? No. They hate us because we run the banks. They hate us because we run Hollywood. They hate us because the Zionists run President Trump. It's a pattern. It's Jewish history. And it's God telling the Jew, wake up! You're not German. You're not Spanish. You're not American. You're a Jew. And it's God basically knocking on the heads of every Jew saying, go home. That's the ultimate message. Anyone who thinks that the situation in America is going to get better, I have a Brooklyn Bridge to sell you. We're looking at a pattern. It's a pattern of Jewish history. The pattern is not going to change. Some Jews might say, oh, you want to say, okay, it's time to move. Now I'm going to go to Panama. Literally, I've met some Jews that have done that already. Right? But they're still missing the mark. God's not waking up the Jewish people saying, bad things are happening, let's go move to another country where eventually the same pattern is going to happen. And I can tell you, I can actually talk to Panama because I was there. But it's a delusion. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God is waking up Am Yisrael today. Remember who you are. Remember your Jewish identity. Remember you have a homeland, and we're living in the first generation in thousands of years. Now, with all the challenges of moving to Israel, do you know what your grandparents would have said if they would have had the opportunity to move to Israel today, in the way that's so easy to do today, to just pick up and go on a plane and buy a plane ticket? For thousands of years, we sing, next year in Jerusalem, next year in Jerusalem. And for thousands of years, Jews actually meant it, but they couldn't do anything about it. Now we can sing it every year, and we can do something about it. It's not just a dream. So going back to the story, after the Jews were taken out of their homes in the Gaza Strip, and I returned back to my home, I was pained by the division that was taking place in the Jewish world. Because I don't know how many of you remember, to me it's still in my head. You were either for the disengagement or against the disengagement. And there was such hatred in the Jewish community. Synagogues would not let you speak if you were against the disengagement. It became a political issue that divided the Jewish community. And it pained me so much because it was all based on sheker, all based on lies. Because at the bottom line, you want to know what politics is about? Politics is about politicians making decisions and then deciding, how do we manipulate the public to support these positions? Basically what it's about. I mean, sometimes there can be good decisions to manipulate the public to support. Sometimes there can be bad decisions. But that's what it's about, and that's what the media is then used for. And the media was used to divide the Jewish people and to support the Israeli government decision to destroy these 21 Jewish communities in the name of trying to make peace. Even though it was clear as day, not only would not bring peace, it would bring horrific destruction and death. So I did something. And I decided to produce a movie about who the people are in Gush Katif, what they experienced that day. I have no experience in media. I'm an analytics guy. That's how I became a management consultant. No creative bone in my body. But I knew the story had to be told. No one wanted to support me. It doesn't take pennies to produce a movie. It takes a lot of money. No one wanted to support me. Everyone I spoke to, whatever big donors, would rather give money to hospitals, rather give money to help the poor. No one understood the importance of media to help meld the minds of Jews to internalize true Jewish values, Israel values, Torah values. It wasn't understood 20 years ago in 2005, 2006. So I went deep into debt to produce this movie, produced it, had it screened all over Israel. I've had screenings all over the world, spoken at screenings, and it's called Home Game. It's about the last youth basketball tournament that took place in the Gaza Strip. That summer, they were fighting on a basketball court to win a basketball tournament at the same time, literally, as they were fighting to save their homes in the land of Israel in the Gaza Strip. Once I got this bug in my head about using media, and again, it's hard to believe, not that hard for all of you here. Once upon a time, there was no smartphone. Once upon a time, there was no Facebook. Once upon a time, there was no WhatsApp. Once upon a time, there was no YouTube, right? So I was one of the first accounts on YouTube, one of the first accounts on Facebook in order to spread messages and media about the Jewish people and the truth about the land of Israel beyond the headlines, because you can't trust the media. This is already back in 2008, 2009. I ended up deciding, I'm passionate. I'm passionate about my identity. I'm passionate about the Jewish people. I'm passionate about the land of Israel. I'm passionate about Torah. I'm passionate about truth. What am I doing in the management consulting world? So I left. And I set up a nonprofit organization. And since then, since 2009, been involved in different initiatives to help educate as many Jews as possible by using whatever the media is out there. I have my own kids who, thank God, I have no clue how God blessed me. They understood on their own they don't want smartphones. 2 kids with dumb phones. Okay? On their own they decided they don't want to be bothered with this Mishigas and all this stuff, right? What's my perspective? I'm a student of Rav Chaim Drukman, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. He was a student of Tzvi Yehuda Cohen Cook, and he was a student of his father's, Rav Avram Yitzchak Cohen Cook, and a message that I internalized as a young yeshiva student was to be Mekadesh the whole, to sanctify the mundane. So when I see all of these tools out there, very much like Chabad, when I see all of these tools out there that can be used for so much bad, and they are used for so much bad, I'm like, no, I'm there. I'm there to reach as many Jews as possible. I'm going to use YouTube to reach Jews, use Facebook to reach Jews, use Instagram to reach Jews with messages based on true Torah and Torah Eretz Yisrael, to educate as many people to understand what is going on in Israel on the day to day. Because you have no clue. 99.9% of all the media, even the Jewish media, does not give you the true story of what's going on in Israel today. Because many of our own journalists, many of our own media personalities in the Jewish world do not have the full picture, and definitely do not have the full Torah understanding to connect with the daily events of what's transpiring to the Jewish people in Israel today. And without that, headlines are all divisive. Every day, divisive headlines. Another divisive issue. Another scandal. And if you don't know why that issue is being used to divide and who is pushing that scandal to divide, then you're going to be depressed. Then you're going to feel hopeless for no reason. Because the process that the Jewish people are going through in Israel today is unbelievable. Unbelievable. You have youth, boys, do not come from religious homes, who are walking around Israel today, not all of them, but it's happening, with tzitzit, all right? Yet no kippah. All right? One of the musicians who has been pushing this concept, he's not pushing anyone to do it, but he started doing it on his own, and then all of a sudden others are doing it. I forgot his name, but he's been asked on interviews, fabulous question, fabulous answer. He says, why are you wearing tzitzit and not wearing a kippah? And his answer is, listen, I don't come from a religious background, but I know that the mitzvah, the commandment of tzitzit, is a mitzvah in the Torah. So I want to do that one. The mitzvah for boys to put a head covering, a yarmulke, that's not in the Torah. That's from the rabbis later on. So maybe one day I'll get to do that. But in the meantime, I want to do the mitzvah of wearing tzitzit. This is what's happening in Israel today. How many articles are you seeing in the Jewish media about that? Nothing. I'll go even further. There were news items in Israel during the month of Elul, right? In Elul, Jews go to synagogue for slichot. I'm Ashkenazi. I only go for the week before the high holiday, right? Sephardim, they go for a full month, right? From Aleph Elul, the first day of the Jewish month of Elul, a full month. I'll wake up at 5:30 in the morning to go to synagogue and say slichot. God bless them. I couldn't do it, but they do it. It's unbelievable, right? There were news items in Israel about how teenage girls in secular Tel Aviv, from secular families, were going to slichot during Elul. Not only were they going, but as their mothers were listening and hearing, well, what are you doing? We're not a religious home. What do you do? And the girls were so inspired and inspiring that many of the mothers joined their daughters to also go to slichot. I'll go even further. Just this week, there was a video in Israel, an interview of some of the hostages who were in the terror tunnels in Gaza. And I didn't see the whole interview, but I saw this one little 1 minute clip where they were basically telling the interviewer, our belief in God was strengthened when we were in those tunnels. The interviewer was in shock. In shock. This is the story of the Jewish people in Israel today. The Jewish people are strengthening their connection and their belief as a nation and as individuals to God and their Jewish identity. Now I want to explain to you where those headlines of division and scandals are coming from. They're coming from powers within the Jewish community and within Israel who are not happy about this transformation, who are not happy about the strengthening of the Jewish identity, the Jewish character of the Jewish state of Israel. Because just like you have Jews in America who want to be more American than Jewish, you want Jews in Israel who want to be Israeli and not Jewish. That is the lens. I'll give you one lens to understand every single news item. It's that underlying current. But again, as a spiritual student of Torah, whenever God allows the good to rise up, guess what else rises up? The evil, the bad, in order to black out the good. So the more you see things get bad, smile more. And if you need help smiling more, go to your local Chabad rabbi and say, Rabbi, how can I help strengthen my emunah? How can I help strengthen my faith in God? Because faith, emunah, is a muscle. It's the most important muscle we have in our body. The most important one. Because all through life, and many of you are more experienced than me, life is not one happy train ride. Life is filled with tragedy. Filled. Because no matter how happy we are, people die. People get sick. That's part of life. So we are always dealing with tragedy. The question isn't if we deal with tragedy. The question is how do we deal with tragedy? And the stronger one has deep faith in God, in helping understand everything. Meaning, you won't understand everything, but just having the anchor of faith, that helps people get through things. And I once read, I forgot which rabbi said this, but a rabbi was once asked, Rabbi, what's the most important blessing for me to ask for? Most important blessing? And the rabbi's answer was, meaning to God. If we have a blessing to ask for God, what should I ask for God? And the rabbi said, ask to help strengthen your faith in God. If there's one blessing, one request you have, may that be it, because that's the basis of everything. So now you have a little bit more understanding what the Pulse of Israel is, because the Pulse of Israel is my daily program, part of my organization called the 12 Tribe Films Foundation, where we have daily videos, daily articles, in order to help inspire Jews with a deeper understanding of what's going on every day. It's fighting the lies with truth, but not in slogans, and not just to win arguments, but to help strengthen as many Jews as possible with their emunah, with their faith in God, based on a deeper understanding of current events through what I would believe to be a Jewish, Torah-based lens. We have conferences, we have trips, and we want to reach as many Jews as possible, and we want to reach as many students as possible, because with the rise of the darkness, there's not enough light. There are people out there saying the truth. There are fabulous organizations with the truth and fighting the lies and the media lies, but not many fighting the daily media lies, and even within the Jewish world and the Jewish papers, with the basis of understanding of Torah and emunah. And that's where we fit in, helping Jews be proud, helping Jews be strong, and understanding the times of redemption that we are living in, because that's what we're living through right now. And I'll end with this one little anecdote, and then open it up to any questions about anything. Oh, and Melissa asked me about Washington, so I'll throw something in about Washington, right? One little, tying this all in together. So when my wife was driving me to the airport just last week, I took a video driving on the highway from my community of Efrat. I live in the Judean Hills. Has anyone ever been to Efrat? Amazing. So, right, we're in between Bethlehem, and Hebron, right? So we're in the Judean Hills, what people unfortunately call the West Bank, but it's really Judea and Samaria, so we live in Judea. And I just took a video of the road. And you're supposed to ask me, Avi, why did you take a video of the road? And I'll tell you why. Because that road was just opened, and it's now a 4-lane highway in the Judean Hills. And when my family made Aliyah in 1990, there was a tiny 1.5-lane road out in the Judean Hills. So this 4-lane highway, that's destiny. This 4-lane highway, that's sovereignty. This 4-lane highway, that's emunah. That's understanding that if we do what we have to do, God has his own schedule. We might be able to fasten it up every once in a while. If we really get active, things are happening. We don't have sovereignty yet in Judea and Samaria. It's going to happen. We don't have the communities built yet in Judea, in Gaza. It will happen. It will happen. And God's waiting for us to want it, and then he's going to help make it happen. So for me, whenever I sit in traffic going to Jerusalem, I'm singing. Thank you, God, we have traffic of hundreds of thousands of Jews who today live in the Judean Hills. Where just back in 1967, there were That's redemption. That's the Jewish people coming alive. And that's what we're experiencing in Israel today. And that's what I want your children and grandchildren to experience as well. Not to be on the defense in America, where it's just going to get worse. I want them to be offense, as proud Jews, raising their children as proud Jews, where it's in the air, where you're Jewish, regardless of how religious you are, it's in the air to be connected with your Jewish identity and the Jewish people. So now I'll jump into Congress for a second. One of the projects of our organization is to strengthen the U.S.-Israel Strategic Alliance, again, based on everything I'm just telling you now, based on the truth, based on a Torah understanding of reality. We bring trips of congressmen and senators to Israel. We have a trip coming next week with 3 congressmen. I'm going to miss the beginning. I'm going to get there for the end to be with them. And every few months, one of us on the team goes to Washington for meetings to develop new relationships, maintain relationships. We help them behind the scenes with information about policy, about decisions, about the situation on the ground, so they have a better understanding, because they're totally disconnected. And again, you don't get the truth about from the media. So 3 days of back-to-back meetings. I go there. I told my wife, I was actually just talking to her today, I'm like, I started around 10 years ago with this project. I was blessed to meet 2 wonderful women. They were working on this, 2 of them, Ruthie Lieberman and Sarah Pillay, and then I joined them. And when I first used to go to Washington, I used to call, email to set up meetings, make the meetings, and then I'd have free time, right? So when you have free, you're in Washington, I'm in between meetings, or no mornings this morning, or no mornings, so I went to this museum, or I went to an event at that place, at that museum, but I have to fill the time. Now, 0 free time. 0 free time. The second I land, I run straight to the halls of Congress, and then until I take off and leave, I'm running. I don't know how many people have ever done lobbying in Congress or the Senate. There's 3 congressional buildings of offices and 3 Senate buildings. They're on both sides of the Capitol. And it's a tunnel underground city underneath the whole thing. It's running from office to office to office to office across Capitol Hill to this side of the building, that side, back to the congressional side. It's insane. My wife knows she has no time. There's no time to talk. I'm just running, and I book meeting after meeting, half hour, sometimes even 15 minutes, trying to meet as many congressmen, senators, and staff as possible to develop these relationships and get them the truth about what's going on. Again, from a Torah-based understanding of reality and the land of Israel. What can I share with you? I can share with you the following. Because of the war, the last time I was there for congressional visits was last February, literally a year ago. And I brought a Israeli parliament member, Amit Halevi of the Likud party, someone I've been friends with for years, even before he got involved with politics. He's one of the rising stars in Israeli politics, someone with deep values, deep connection to Torah, and he knows the real politics, knows how to handle the political arena, which is not something that every politician or every value-based person can be a successful politician. He's got it. So I brought him to Washington for meetings because he was spearheading a new plan to redefine the U.S.-Israel Strategic Alliance with funding. Why? What are the 2 biggest claims today? All right, this was last year, before headlines about this. What are one of the 2 biggest claims that are every day today, definitely on social media, in terms of bashing Israel or bashing people who support Israel? One is, go for it.
You got the false claim that Israel gets the most foreign
aid
from
right.
Israel gets the most foreign aid from America, when really, when you think about it, Japan, Korea, they get aid and they get troops, but they
Egypt, Jordan.
Right.
But you got it. Foreign aid, number 1. Foreign aid, right? Foreign aid is number 1. Number 2.
Genocide.
Well, I'm talking specifically about funding. But yeah, that's another one. Number 2. APAC. Yeah. APAC has become a curse word in Washington for politicians right now. So politicians are now scared to either get money or to have meetings or to listen to what APAC said. Okay? Put aside what APAC is. Put aside. This is not conversation. Those two are now explosive issues, right? This is a year ago. A year ago, Amit Halevi was in Washington. I was with him in Washington, all these meetings, saying, listen, we got to get rid of this foreign aid. Get rid of it. Now, meaning we have to replace it with something else so that we neuter these issues. They're gone. What people don't understand, and even the facts don't matter anymore, as I'll tell you about some of the meetings in Congress. What people don't understand is that they always say $3.8 billion a year. You know, we're giving my tax money. I don't want any money going to Israel. I don't want to stick with it. How many people here know that all $3.8 billion, every single cent, is spent in America? In American factories, for American development, for American jobs, for products, defense products, missile systems that Israel and America both use. Okay? Now, I brought this up in conversation in Congress, and they said, guess what? Those facts don't matter. I was talking to a staff member in one of the congressional meetings. He goes, Avi, Gen Z doesn't even care about that. They don't care. They don't want us to be doing anything to help Israel anymore. It's not about where the money is spent. You tell them where the money is spent, they won't care. All right? This is what we're dealing with, and this is the Republicans. This is on the Republican side. Forget about Democrats. You can't trust the Democrats for assistance anymore. Right? And I had meetings with Democrat offices. Obviously Democrat offices that are supportive of Israel, and they themselves were telling me, you can't expect anything from the Democrat Party anymore. Nothing. They are fighting as pro-Israel representatives who are pro-Israel against their own party in voting for Israel. They were scared. They're scared out of their minds about what's going on. Scared out of their minds. Right? These are the Democrats. On the Republican side, this is what they're hearing from Gen Z and the younger generation. Stop supporting Israel. This is growing. Okay? Now, I remember when Trump was reelected, and especially with the war and the support, everyone was like, Trump, yes, Trump's in office, the Republicans are here, things are, as long as the Republicans are in office, we're going to be okay. Guess what, folks? Nope. That's not it either. That's not it either. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Okay, I literally had one congressman told me, Avi, we are scared. Okay, she in this case, she is scared about if too many Republican congressmen vote together against bills for Israel together with the Democrats, that will stop the Trump administration from being able to pass laws. And let's say even the Trump administration continues. We don't know what's going to happen in the midterms. We don't know what's going to happen in another 2 years. The trend is there. And I'd love to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge and say it's going to change and it's going to get better. And again, there might be ups and downs, but no, it's just going to go in this direction. It's not going to go back to what it was on either side of the aisle. And it's not putting our faith in Trump or in the Republicans, it's putting our faith in Hashem. We still vote whoever's the best to vote for, right? But bottom line is, things are getting bad. And they're going to get worse. Don't know if it's going to be this midterm, that one. I mean, a lot of Republicans are resigning in this upcoming election cycle, in the midterms. No clue what's going to be in 3 years. But this is a reality we have to get used to. Because it's not going to change. There are going to be more and more Republicans who are also going to start going against Israel, that all of a sudden everyone's going to be raising money to try to get other one else. Oh my God, we're in Florida. We have someone running for governor. He's not Republican, Democrat. The governor race? Am I surprising you? I forgot his name. And the Democrat side, I just heard this last night. There's a rabbi anti-Semite who's running, who's starting through his name in the race for governor of Florida. The younger generation loves it. No? What? You know what I'm talking about? I forget. In any case, so but for the good news, so I was there last year. We were talking about this new paradigm. Get rid of the foreign aid. What's this really about? It's about joint projects. Let's start marketing this and developing joint projects between Israel and America, because it's an alliance. Israel is not like Egypt that needs foreign aid that gives no added value whatsoever to America.
It's not like Jordan that gets billions in foreign aid that does nothing to America. Israel gives value worth trillions, much more than the $3.8 billion. One of the stories that MK Amit Halevi was talking about in the meetings last February, he said when the Biden administration had an arms embargo at the beginning of the war, there was one area of the U.S. military that continued to send parts, even though the whole rest of the military stopped sending everything to Israel. You know which part of the military that was? No, the Air Force. Why? And again, Amit Halevi spoke. He spoke to the, I don't know, Boeing or whoever it was. Like, why do you guys continue sending stuff? He goes, you don't understand. Israel is flying our planes. This is the best battle-tested research we're getting in real battles of our hardware, of our software, of our missile technology. You think we're going to stop? So the American Air Force was the only part of the military that continued sending Israel parts for the planes because they said, this is saving us trillions of dollars. All right? So that's just one instance of the amount of worth, the ROI of American assistance, military assistance, whatever, or joint collaboration with Israel. The ROI is tremendous to America. So we have to now move to an alliance of the two countries. So it's understands an alliance as opposed to people thinking, oh, it's foreign aid, that's because they need help. And we don't want to help them. Right? And this time, again, I was talking about it in all the offices, and they're all excited because they all understand that this foreign aid concept is an albatross not just on Israel, but on America. It hampers them. It hampers them from being able to do the work to help Israel. Why do they have to run around every year for a vote to vote for foreign aid to Israel if you can get rid of that and replace it just with direct agreements between their military industry and our military industry to benefit both of us? So that's the good news. That everyone was on board about this. And if I'm not mistaken, and 2 or 3 weeks ago, Prime Minister Netanyahu even announced that he said, okay, yeah, over the next few years we're gonna ramp down the foreign aid, which is unbelievable. That's great that he's on board with that. Because a year ago he wasn't officially on board with it when Amit was talking about this. What else can I tell you about the congressional offices? One of the questions I asked every single congressman and senator's office was, how much is it understood in America and on Capitol Hill of how dangerous the Muslim Brotherhood is to America? And it depended upon the office. Some offices said, oh yeah, we understand. And some offices said, no understanding whatsoever. But in every office, then I came with a follow-up question. I'm like, okay, like even for the office that said, yeah, there's an understanding the Muslim Brotherhood is a danger here in America, and they're trying to do in America what basically they're doing in Western Europe. The follow-up question was, well, how many people, or what's the environment and understanding that Qatar is the Muslim Brotherhood? And there's no separating the two. And by separating the two, even by making decisions against the Muslim Brotherhood, by ignoring the fact that it's Qatar, it won't make a difference. You're not going to help America or Americans. And I think in like 1 or 2 offices they said, oh yeah, we know it's Qatar. And others said, it's really problematic to talk about that in Washington. And I know that because many, I don't know how many of you know, if not everybody knows, Qatar has been spending billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in buying out our politicians. I mean, we all know they have the White House.
The media.
Can I ask a question?
Media.
Universities.
The Muslim Brotherhood usually by the...
Marco Rubio.
Right.
Okay, so let me clarify. Go back and look at the decision. Okay? And this is Marco Rubio, and again, I had conversations asking specifically about this, because Marco Rubio knows the truth. He knows Qatar's, and it's not just Qatar, it's Qatar and Turkey. And Qatar and Turkey are the ones that President Trump is the closest with in the Middle East, at least officially.
And they got
Talks it out.
Mamdani in office. Qatar
Right.
supports Mamdani.
Right, and everyone supports them, yeah, of course. They have a Trojan horse taking over New York State. So to answer your question, the State Department's decision, I don't know the exact language, forbids, outlaws, I don't know, makes illegal the Muslim Brotherhood branches of Egypt and Jordan, which is Narishkeit. That's Bubkis. Bubkis. The mothership of Muslim Brotherhood is Qatar, and the little sister is Turkey. So I had a conversation with one congressman, and they said the following. They said, listen, Marco, he's a strategist. Oh, this was a chief of staff. He goes, I worked with Marco. He's a strategist. He doesn't do anything without a long-term strategy. So I'm like, so can I infer that he knows the end game is to target Qatar and Turkey as well? He goes, I can't say anything, but he's a strategist. So take that for what it means, and you're getting it right out of, I was just having these meetings yesterday, but this is what's going on. But the good news is that there is more of an understanding, definitely on the Republican side. I have no clue on the Democratic side. I mean, they've been taken over by the Red Green Alliance. The two offices they did have meetings with on the Democratic side, they are aware of the danger, also from the Muslim Brotherhood to America. But obviously, they're a minority within their party on Capitol Hill, try to make a difference about that. But the question is, will Americans wake up early enough to stop the tide? And the problem is, democracy is very easy to manipulate and hijack for a subversive entity to take over without the democratic tools to stop it, because of freedom, all the freedoms that that democracy gives. But I had one positive conversation with one congressman, and you should be happy because he's now one of two congressmen who are saying this, because Randy Fine from Florida is also saying this, and I've been saying this for years. The only way to save any country is to expel the jihadis. That's it. You can't let them live in you. They are inherently about destroying your society. You can't allow them to live in you. They can't live in America. They can't live in Britain. They can't live in Canada, New Zealand, Australia. They can't live in Israel. They can't live in Gaza. They can't live in Judea and Samaria. And the real battle today is the awareness battle to help our fellow Jews, to help our children, to help our grandchildren get out of the political correct mud to be able to start thinking in order to survive. Because this political correctness, not allowing people to say that Islamophobia is real because they want to kill all of us. So you better believe I'm an Islamophobe. Everyone should be an Islamophobe. Everyone. They're the biggest conquering society in history. And the Christians of all, the bedrock, the cradle of Christianity is the Middle East. And where have they been decimated and persecuted, the Christians? The Middle East. It's the Arabs from Arabia, Saudi Arabia, who conquered all of the Middle East, who conquered Northern Africa. Now they're conquering Europe in modern times. Of course we should be afraid of them. And we have to stop our children and our grandchildren from feeling afraid to say that publicly. And that's not easy. Maybe for some of you it's not easy. But this is literally about life or death. It's literally about life or death. And at least in Israel, most of Israeli society is standing for life. Not everyone speaks the truth as boldly as I'm speaking it right now, but we know who the enemy is, and Israelis are pretty bold in how they talk and speak. But for you, in America, and again, I'm talking to you about your own children and grandchildren, no clue. Like, it's even for Republicans, it's not just Democrats. This political correctness has neutered all of us. And if we don't educate ourselves to be able to say what needs to be said, based on truly understanding reality, and not a believing in a fantasy of kumbaya,
Suicidal Empathy by Gad Saad.
Gad Saad.
That's exactly what it's
100%. Okay, but finishing on a positive note and then taking your questions, again, like I started, we are living in amazing times. And we're seeing that and you feel it. You feel it in Israel. I mean, we're a country 2 years at war, more than 2 years at war, and still in every survey since the war till today, Israel comes out as one of the top 10 happiest countries in the world. It makes no sense because the Jewish people make no sense. Because in Judaism we have the Sabbath is day 7, right? Because that's nature. God created the world in 7 days. But then we have Me'al HaTeva. Then we have above nature. That's the number 8. That's Hanukkah. That's the miracles. Because God's watching over us. We are living through miraculous times. And the happiness of the Jewish people and the survival of the Jewish people is all because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if you haven't been to Israel yet, come. And where I know Melissa's working on a mission. We have a mission. I have papers here, a pamphlet of my organization. A mission in the summer. We have our annual conference in Jerusalem at the Bacon Center. Please take the piece of paper, tell others if maybe we can coordinate and join up on some of the days. It's about inspiring the Jews with the truth, not just with the sadness of October 7th, not just with the startup economy, but with Hebron and with Shiloh and with Beit El and with the farms. The farms! Wait, did you talk about the farms, Aviel? The farms! You have 18, 19-year-old boys and girls who are saving the Jewish people, period. And again, in the media, you get the news, oh, and the farms, and the kids are doing this, and settler violence, and they're stealing Arab land. Narishkeit. These kids are literally putting their lives on the line, going to hills out in the middle of Gehenimsville, nowhere, surrounded by Arabs, shepherding sheep to be able to save as many dunam of land as possible to push the Arabs away, to stop stealing our land, because it's all our land. And yet the Jewish media and the Jewish organizations, they bash them. It's 180 degrees different. You're talking about, and how many 18-year-olds here in America will run off and do that? It's not in the air here. It's in the air there. All right? So we're living in unbelievable times. And I want everyone, if you haven't yet purchased a property in Israel, whether through Nahala or any other organization, buy now, even if it's something small, as investment, buy. Have something there for your family, for you, for your children, for your grandchildren. Because the future of the Jewish people is returning to our ancestral homeland, the third Jewish Commonwealth. Life has been great here in America, right? I grew up in the 70s, the 80s, and lived here in the 90s. Those were the good years. They're not coming back. And the future is Israel, so come join us there. And when you come, or you come on a visit or a trip, let me know. I'd love to get together and show you some of the sites behind the headlines and even some of the farms out in the Judean Hills. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much.
Before, Gila and Malkiel took me to the Judean and Samarian hills, and it was fantastic. Everything that Malkiel says, everything that Avi is saying is absolutely true. It was amazing. It was my very first trip to Israel as well, and I encourage everyone to go. Again, whether you want to go with Heroes for Israel project, with Nahala we want to do together. I'd love to do more with Avi. And one of the things that we have to do, as Gila knows that I do, I'm not just about Heroes for Israel project. I'm looking to see where we can partner and collaborate and work together and bring us together. I don't look at my piece of the pie. I look at our pie getting bigger, and that we're all in one big thing together. And I think that is extremely important. And I would, if everybody walks away from this, you have 3 organizations with missions that align to make Israel safer, stronger for us, for our kids' future and everything. I encourage everybody, that's where your donation should go. Back to Israel to make the Kitot Konanut stronger, which I know you're a member of your Kitot Konanut, and that's what we support. To support Nahala, so you can have more of these young people building the yeshivs and having their farms, listening to the pulse of Israel, and really, really learning the truth, and then being able to disseminate that truth to your family, to your friends. It's amazing because even today, as we're saying, we should all go back home. Trump's already trying to give visas to all the British Jews to come to America. They shouldn't come to America, they should go to Israel.
Can I make one
Yes,
note
please
about
do.
Heroes for Israel? Not specifically your organization, but Heroes for Israel, and I'll end with that. The biggest heroes for Israel today, they're not the soldiers. They're the wives and the mothers of all the soldiers. And just as a personal anecdote, my wife had 2 children fighting in this war, a husband, sometimes all 3 of us at the same time. And they're the ones who held the fort. They're the ones who held the sanity in the home as best as possible. And that is a true heroism. When I talked about the King David like warriors, the fighters out there, well, we have the Miriam, the Sarah, the Rachel, the Rebecca, the Leahs, unbelievable heroes of the women of the Jewish people. So remember that and all the work. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Anyone who's not yet a subscriber for Pulse of Israel, just go to pulseofisrael.com and please take.
Question?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello, Wendy. How you doing?
Good to see you. Okay, a few things. One of them is, how is it that Biden could give $350 billion to Ukraine and we get a measly couple $1 billion and it has to go through, votes? And the $350 billion didn't go through votes. Now, also, the whole area of Gaza, they're talking about bringing Erdogan from Turkey and enemies of our people to have a buy-in, $1 billion each to Gaza.
The World Peace Council. Right.
Can you talk about that?
Okay, yeah, so in terms of how, I don't know the political machinations of how they're able to, but I mean, any news item, there's anti-Semitism when you see the double standard. When no one complains about U.S. foreign aid to Egypt or Jordan or to any of the other countries or to Ukraine, but yet they complain about the foreign aid to Israel, then it's blatant anti-Semitism. That's just a double standard,
But
right?
why did they have to vote for Israel and they didn't
I
vote?
don't know the political machinations about it.
Okay.
It's different. So there's different types of agreements. I have no clue. In terms of the Gaza, right? So in terms of that, Turkey definitely is not getting a foot into Israel. Listen, there's a game being played. You have to understand, and this is also what I get into in my daily Pulse of Israel programs to help people understand the bigger picture, because things are so complex, and no article in any publication really gives the full picture across. You have to understand the following: there is the Israel interest, there is the American interest. Okay? And I do believe Trump has Israel's interests, but Trump has America's interests first. America's interests first, and everyone has to take this into consideration, is the economic war against China. That's what's going on. That's why he took down Venezuela. That's why he's taking down Iran. He's not taking down Iran because of the ballistic missiles, even though we'd like to believe it. He's not taking down Iran because to save the Iranian people. If it wouldn't be for China, he wouldn't be doing it. Right? And this doesn't get across in the media. And I even asked Congressman, why isn't this being talked about even from the administration? Like for their talking points, for their messaging. Like, say that. Gives a much better understanding for Americans to understand. But I don't understand why they're not. But it's all about China. It's the economic war to help the American economy. That's the lens to understand the Trump administration's decisions right now about everything. So they want things quiet. And Netanyahu, with everything he wants to do to help us and to end this war and to have complete victory in Gaza, part of the deal, most probably with Trump, is, okay, Trump, I'm along with you for this China deal. Like that, okay? Because Israel is a huge benefactor of this China thing. Because in order for Trump to have America connected to India and take on China, Israel is the only reliable ally of the United States to be part of the new supply chain to the east. So Israel is going to be a huge benefactor when Trump succeeds in taking down China with this new supply chain all the way to the east. And hence, Trump wants quiet in Syria. So he's letting the Kurds be massacred. Trump wants quiet in Gaza. So he had the ceasefire that stopped us in the middle and didn't let us finish the war. So I can talk to you as the activist Jew in Israel, saying these decisions are horrible, which they are, and I do say that, but at the same time, I give you the greater picture of the geopolitical understanding of why it's happening and why Israel is going along with it. And with all of my critiques of Netanyahu, and I have plenty of critiques of Netanyahu, I do believe he is the best leader we have had to lead Israel, and out of anyone realistically positioned to be prime minister today or tomorrow if there's elections, he is still the best, even with all my critiques on all the issues. And he definitely is on board 100% with Trump on a much bigger picture. And it's hard for us to understand that, and I say this even to my own fellow activists, because I'm the first one to say we didn't win the war in Gaza yet, and this wasn't done, and this should be done, and we have to settle there now, and we have to settle there now. And I'm the first supporter to say we should be going in and planting the flags there, and building there. Because guess what? Do you know why there's building in their homes in Efrat today? Because during the British Mandate, when it was illegal for Jews to build, guess what the Jews did in Israel? They built. Chomal Migdal. They found a way they could build against the law. Right? And then it continued. We liberated Judea and Samaria in 1967. Government didn't want building in Judea and Samaria. You know how there was building in Judea and Samaria? Because women, mothers, on their own, decided to stay in Beit Hadassah, a building in Hebron, even though the government said, get out of there. And they were there for a year without their husbands. How many of you know this story? A year without their husbands. And it's because of those Jewish women who stayed in Beit Hadassah in Hebron for a year that the Israeli government finally capitulated for the first Jewish resettlement of Jews in Judea and Samaria in Hebron. And that brought about the establishment of Kiryat Arba. And when the Jews succeeded there, then Benny Katzover and his wife Yehudit, who she was one of those women who stayed for a year without her husband in Beit Hadassah, they went to Samaria and they established the first one there. And the Israeli army was sent to throw them out. And then the Jews came back and the Israeli army was sent to throw them out. And then they came back. That's how we have today close to 500,000 Jews. More than 500,000 Jews living in Judea and Samaria. It's not because we waited for the government to give us permission. We acted like Jews in doing what we have to do. There's consequences. But because we continued and we were persistent, today we have over 500,000 Jews. And that's how we're going to have rebuilding in Gaza too. Because of organizations like Nachalat and the Jews that are going to keep on going in. And I actually made a video, 3 weeks ago? History was made in Gaza. And it was the video of Nachalat going into the Gaza Strip. And it was the first time since 2005 that civilians raised the Israeli flag in Gaza.
That was Malkiel.
Malkia, all right, so here's my video. And that's history. And some people say, oh, it's only a flag. No, that's the first step. But you don't get to finish if you don't start with step number 1. So he started with step number 1, and Bezrat Hashem should continue, and then you're going to see Jews try to build in there, and they're going to get thrown out, and some are going to be thrown into jail, and then they're going to go back, and they're going to get thrown out, and thrown into jail, and continue, and that's how we're going to force the hand of the Israeli government and the Trump administration
that the rebuilding of our communities in Gaza, that's the Jewish people, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was expecting of us. He is throwing us miracles and miracles, and to wake up, wake up, wake up. And I'll leave with this other last thing to wake up. Southern Lebanon. Shiite, you know the only way to stop Hezbollah is to push them out of there and for the Jews to remain there. Guess what lands are Southern Lebanon? You've landed in Southern Lebanon?
Done.
Dan and Naphtali. God is pushing reality in the direction for the Jews to wake up and own our identity and return to our ancestral homeland. Because the Torah is clear. God tells us there can't be any evil in the land of Israel. There can't be any evil. What we're doing today, in a sense, is disgracing God's name by allowing evil to exist in the borders that God said there can't be any evil there. Our mission as Jews is to ensure there's no evil in the land of Israel. It's God's land, it's not our land. It's supposed to be holy. Holiness can't have evil. We have to make sure no one who lives a life of evil, and the biggest life of evil is of an ideology of killing and murdering and persecuting, they can't live in the land of Israel. Doesn't make a difference if they're in Gaza, they're Judea and Samaria, if they have Israeli citizenship. You believe in that evil, you can't live there. It's totally against the Torah. And God's waiting for us to do something about it. And our leaders can't talk like this, because it's not politically correct. Rabbis can't talk like this, because people in shul are going to get upset at them. So it's up to us to talk like this. Only after they hear more of us talking like this, and they're not afraid for their jobs, rightly so, that then they will start talking like this. That's why Pulse of Israel is about waking up the Jewish people. The Am. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was waiting for us. Yes?
What is Israel doing for the widows from the war? A lot of young soldiers.
Listen, I don't know all the details, but there are various initiatives, both at the government level and at the nonprofit level, to assist the families of the fallen. Is it enough? I don't have the details. For some it probably is, for others it probably isn't. The biggest hardship is not the money. The biggest hardship is the psychological adjustment to life. I can tell you, not every person, not every family has the internal strength or the emunah to be able to deal with it properly. But I'll give you three inspiring stories. One's not war related, two is war related, but totally connected to this. In my community, my friend is Leo D. Rabbi Leo D. Familiar with Rabbi Leo D? Yeah. Rabbi Leo D. His wife and two daughters were killed in a terror attack in Pesach 3 years ago, 3 Pesachs ago. They were going up to a vacation up on the Galil, Tveria area, and they were 2 separate cars because he was a large family. And the wife and the 2 girls were gunned down by a terrorist, Chol Pesach. His family went from a family of 6 down to a family of 3 overnight. Leo just got remarried a few months ago. Alright? And it's a very special woman. Very special woman to marry, not replace Chalil B'chas, but come in second as a wife, as a stepmother in that situation. And that shows unbelievable strength by her. It shows unbelievable strength by Rabbi D. And there are other stories, I know of 2, I'm sure there are more, of widows who lost their husbands in the war, who have remarried, sometimes friends of their husbands, and continuing life, continuing to remember their husbands who were killed in battle, but continuing life. So there are always going to be those cases where it's sad, and there are other cases where they're moving on.
But there are organizations that are helping, there are initiatives that are helping, there are government initiatives that are helping. Is it enough for everyone? Probably not. But I do know there are things going on.
Is it true that Israel, is it true that Israel is starting to revoke the citizenship of Arabs who have Israeli citizenship, who committed terrorist acts?
Yes, for the first historic thing took place just 2 days ago. Two terrorists who are Arab Muslims had their citizenship revoked. They're being expelled. Unfortunately, I think they're only being expelled to Gaza, which makes no sense. They should be kicked to Yemen or to Syria or whatever. So there's still ways to go, but the fact people do not understand. I mean, with all the headlines, and I'm going to politics for a second, with all divisive headlines about the government, without bad things happening, the amount of change that has finally been able to happen in Israel because we finally have a right-wing government, even if it's not perfect, and it hasn't won the war, but because there's a greater picture with America involved, there are little changes taking place like this, where finally we're standing up for ourselves properly and for our life properly. So yeah, that's a huge change. It should be much more than two, but it's a start. We have to say thank you for the beginning. Thank you very, very much. If you like our videos, subscribe and donate today.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.